Welcome to episode 27 of the Corey Shepherd podcast. Welcome back to everybody who's been listening. Welcome to all the new listeners. Welcome to everybody who's listening on YouTube, on TuneIn Radio, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and on Google Podcasts. Of course, welcome to everybody who's been listening on the Cadence Club. No, all right. This had to be short. No, short by my standards. There are some things we had to talk about this week. I mean, all in know the topics by now. I think you could start to anticipate and expect we're going to come on this podcast by now based on what happened over the weekend and over the last week. But let me start by saying congratulations to my damn self and my wife, my married wife, Stacy, soon to be Shepherd Bab. When I thought when you sign marriage certificate and thing, I thought your name is changed one time, and I asked any priest, what's the situation? Why signing this thing? Give me my certificate one time, and go home. But I had no knowing that you had to change name and do the official thing and so on. But I got married over the weekend. Married man, joining the League of Gentlemen, they say. And I had a ceremony that was one for the history books, one for the memory books. I think we just let me say this, right? To anybody who planning to get married or who doing anything, get an event planner, right? And don't stress your life out. Don't watch the money the event planner charging you. Because what you pay the event planner, a good event planner going to help you save in terms of money that you go spend 2 and 3 and 4 times, and also help you save in terms of your own sanity and stress levels going into the event. Believe what I tell you. Get an event planner unless somebody work out your thing. But I had a great day. I had a great weekend. We only had the episodes where I kind of lived through this with me, from the engagement all the way to the marriage, all the way on board. So it was nice, really, even with the small numbers, still having at least my parents and some very, very close friends there. And I felt like I still feel a little bad about it because there were a lot of family who couldn't be there, and that's not a nice thing. I think that's one of the things COVID will be remembered for. Like these Zoom weddings and Zoom funerals and thing. I mean, some things that would have usually brought us together as large groups and really feel that love and able to show that love to one another. It changed now. We had to do this small group thing, but the small group work for us in a way too. Number one, you save real cost because a lot of people spend a lot of money on big weddings. If you go back to the episode with my guy Jared Gray, salute my guy Jared Gray, who was talking about, couples who get married, they make it, and then when they're talking about splitting assets and who gonna get half and half, you realize that it's not assets is splitting, it's splitting to see who will pay back the wedding loan for the big grand wedding and things. So I think young couples in particular is a good time to go and do what you have to do a small thing, and nobody can vex with you. The regulations are what they are. So that's thanks to St. Mary's Church and St. James and all, my friends and family who show up for me, I feel in a big way. And Father Gregory, who was there, I couldn't have it any other way. And boy, it was just a fun day. The whole day was fun to me. We start Friday night. We had a reception in Hilton. So some of us were able to stay over in Hilton. It was nice just being there. Now I'm tired like hell because there's so much things to do. Again, event planners, guys, you ain't going to be sticking up late in the night writing out tent card for seating arrangement and sticking water bottle thing on 1 o'clock in the morning. You wouldn't have to go through that. Your event planner, in hindsight, would be a good investment. And then, there's no event, you don't have fun in an event for me, or don't have enough stories to tell if you don't have some eventualities. So the first thing happened, we reached by the church and some music supposed to play for us to walk down the aisle. I see no music and playing or nothing. The priest called me, so we just walk up the aisle. It was kind of awkward, but thank God by the time Stacy got there, the music play and everything, that was nice. And it was a really nice ceremony. I said, when we reach an event planner again, guys, when we reach in the front of the church and I sit down in the chair rocking. If I rock that chair too hard, I'm going down. And my pants is tight. And that tight, listen, I just picturing that pants busting open and wedding. Mashing up. But I braced myself. I tuck in my belly and I sit down light on the chair and everything was nice. We light the wrong candle. It was just one of them days. And then we had a reception that I could not ask for a better reception. Boy, they try me. They try to make me break down and cry. From since the morning, we do one of them reveal things. I keep saying reveal. They say reveal is gender reveal. We do a first look before the wedding. It was nice. And I think I gave my little tears out to the way there, and I was good for the rest of the ceremony. So they tell me two things. They say I officially have the longest wedding, and I officially have the longest groom speech ever. Now, I want to say to everybody who wasn't invited, my apologies. It feel like about 5 minutes to me. There was a lot of Prosecco and so on in my system. And somebody should have flagged me, but me and my mother says a solid 45 minutes. I put anybody through. I thought it was about 5-10 minutes, to be honest. But I think, again, it's one of the funny things with this COVID thing too, and maybe podcasting. You get so accustomed to Zoom calls. Like, I have classes going on Zoom where, I basically talking to myself. Nobody do respond. They don't answer no question. They don't study me. I just talking. And in the podcast, in a room by yourself talking. And I think I get a little warm when I hear the first thing I say and I hear actual people respond and laugh. I was like, what? So I kind of suck up that moment a little bit. But hey, once. One and done. So I bask in the moment. But boy, we had a fet and a half, boy. It was a good time. Of course, all social distancing and all those protocols. So it was nice, and I'm happy. I'm proud to be the husband of Mrs. Shepherd Bab. I don't know if what I'm feeling is, what they call it, happy hypoxia. Like I'm exhausted, so it making me feel extra happy, or if it's just the joy of getting it done. I think it's the joy of getting it done. Me and Stacey been together for a long, long time. But like I listen to them vows and I take them seriously. Like those vows almost describing what our relationship has been like over the last 10 years. It's been sickness and in health, and it's ups and downs, it's in sobriety and highness. It's just the reality of what we live over the years. And I'm glad that we could make that next step. And I might underestimate, to be honest, how important that step is, because my attitude has been for a long time, hey, we living together, we have a son together, me ain't going away, you ain't going away. It come like we married already, but I think I understand what people mean now when they say marriage is marriage. And I'm not the most religious person. I take my plenty not to talk about this before the date too, because when I see that Valsing thing and I went and do podcast, when his son, I can't go and talk about nobody wedding. But also because Stacey is Catholic, and the Catholic Church, we had to do the engagements encounter, or I don't know again the name of that wrong, but it's a 6-week or 8-week, or it felt like about 13 weeks. Session. Thank God it was on Zoom. You didn't have to leave home, but it was really married couples married for a long time and in the church, and the people who wanted to get married, really sharing a lot of things, real practical stuff, like about finances, about how you manage conflict and how you deal with those things. And and I enjoyed that class. Surprisingly, I went in there with an attitude that Stacey go tell you I didn't want to be there every Wednesday. It's like, oh God, you had to go and sit down here for 2 hours to hear preaching and them kind of things. But it was never preachy. It was really very, very helpful things for the day-to-day things people go through in a relationship. So, I could tell you the experience where in the beginning is heavy, what we used to call love. You like the person and you can't wait and you're talking to the person whole day and this and that. But when you're making a lifetime commitment, whether you get married or you shack up, whatever your lifetime commitment looks like, it starts to be a organization of its own. It starts to be its own institution, the household. And bills had to pay and the place had to clean and things going wrong and children had to do this and I have ambition and you have ambition and who wants to study, and we had to manage each other's time and respect one another, and I changing and you changing and body changing. It's a lot. And sometimes I feel like when I was young in particular, your expectation of people really unfair. You're setting a whole bunch of expectations on what people should be and how they should. You're looking for Miss Right or Mr. Right, as the case might be. And Boy, what you should really be looking for is Mr. Self. To be honest. You have to find yourself as yourself. You're on a journey to find yourself. The longer I feel like, let me talk for myself. The more I try to find somebody else, is the further I get away from myself. As soon as I start to find myself a little bit, I find Stacy and we find each other and build a relationship that today is a marriage boy as a married man. And the people tell me my 10 years in Kong boy started from square one. All right, square one. So we go for a fresh batch of 10 years then. It's no problem. We here. So that was really nice. And I have to, there's some people I say salute to. Sorry, yeah. But I have to say salute to Dion Sandy, who deserved the DJ award of the year. Because I remember I talked to Dion earlier and I told him, I said, Dion, listen, it's a COVID thing. You can't do much, but still want a little DJ for the reception. You had to play first dance and all these things. And I said, we linemen, we have a little reception. The thing planned. We have a bar and all that, everything planned. And I tell Dion, I say, it's a morning wedding, so it's about 11 o'clock. I said, Dion, by 5, 6 o'clock, everybody tired and out today, Boy, Dion must have played till about 9, 10 o'clock last night. People were so happy. And it was nice to see my mother. I see my mother happy. My father was happy. Stacy's mother is the happiest woman to have. And boy, we just have a bunch of friends. They salute to my guy, JP and Amanda. Two of them never come off the dance floor. They dance from the beginning, from the first song that play. Man play vintage music nowadays. Music zest. When it's zest, they busting shot. When it's conga line, they conga line. And I couldn't ask for nothing better in a wedding. And I really appreciate, even as small as it was, to have a moment with friends and family that I could cherish for a lifetime. Now, my speech feel about that shorter, and I time in this now, and this is only 11 or 12 minutes. But I guess when the video come out, I'll see if it was 45 minutes or whatever. But I had to start there. No, unfortunately, while that was happening, what I feel is one of the, I was describing as the happiest day of my life. We unfortunately in a place where it ain't too much happiest days or too much lives going on in this country. So it's one of them episodes, folks. You had to stay with me here. Because my goal is always to come here and laugh and have a good time. And I love this little country, So when you see me laughing at current issues and things, the idea is really that we don't take ourselves so serious, but we had to take ourselves a little more seriously. And I'm saying that because I want to talk to men in this episode. And when I say men, I'm talking to myself too, so forgive me. But I want to talk to good men. Men who would not put their hands on a woman. Or men who wouldn't mistreat a woman or ill-treat a woman or put hands on a child. I want to talk to us. Because I started doing conversations with people who in the field of mental health and wellness, or mental wellness, I should say, and therapists, and I was grateful to come across people like Neola and Micah and many more who are talking to before we actually do episodes and conversations and so on. And I'm in a space where I'm learning a lot. I learn a lot about myself, not necessarily about anybody else. Like, in talking to people who in the field, I'm starting to realize that we have to address good men. I'm using the word good men, quotes unquote. I put myself in that bracket, right? Good men who non-violent, you're not going to kill nobody, you're not going to beat and abuse anybody and them types of things, right? But I'm starting to learn how, because I remember asking Neola in one of the episodes, like, what drives somebody to get there, or how does somebody seek help if they're abusive? We can't, I don't think we could continue to just cast aside the abuser and the role is to, so your abuser, you think your role is to kill you or hang you or put you on the stake with carrying Woodford Square. I feel we have to get to the point where we're helping abusers. I know it's not a popular opinion, and before I even get into any of the topics, I'm not talking about any particular topic that happened over the last week. I'm talking about good men raising children. Because these people who are abusers and or rapists and murderers, let's not forget that they grew up in a household. They grew up somewhere with a mother and a father, and they grew up somewhere where the household and the parents were setting an example for them, and the bigger brothers and the people in the community, society was setting an example for them. And somewhere along the way, we lost the plot. We, us, good men, we lose the plot. Because that little child who grew up to do these things to women is who I'm talking to when I say we have to address the abuser. And I'm glad that I embark on this journey. I really embark on this journey to impart knowledge or something. And I just felt like these issues, and you know, what made me really make this step to start calling people and asking questions is because when I read articles during the week to try to figure out what I'm going to talk about on the podcast, I shy away from the things like domestic violence and murder and rape and things because I can't read all them articles for my own sanity on a week-to-week basis. I still have a job and I have work to do and I have a family, and I can't put myself in that mode every day to read those articles. I most of the time I avoid reading them. If it's a big story like the ones that happened this week, sometimes I just give myself a couple of days from the social media and not, because maybe if I read, my reaction might be bad or I might comment on something out of timing. And so I avoid it, and I realize that avoiding it makes me a part of the problem. And it makes me a part of the problem all around, not just avoiding reading it in the papers, avoiding it when we see it on the streets or when we know we have friends who do it. And that's something I want to address in this episode too. And like I remember Neola asking me, well, why wouldn't you call the police? And it's something that I'm battling with all the time. Is like, look, Corey, why wouldn't you call the police? And I don't know, boy. I know which one of these things to start with. And if I had seen them as a stranger in the streets, if I would have called the police, that's a few of them I would have intervened myself, I would have get myself in trouble. But you know where it gets tricky? When is your friend? This is where I'm talking to good men. Because a lot of the narrative that I see or the things that people say, and I've read a lot of what women have posted over the past few days, and it's heartbreaking. But one of the things you see women say a lot is, you all know your friend who's the abuser and you're not doing anything about it. And I take that to heart. Because as one of the quote-unquote good men, that statement is partially true. But to say that you're not doing anything about it is a little harsh. And again, I'm talking good men. Because in good men, you have a fella in the crew and you're seeing something. Like you say, the man is hitting woman, he's talked to her off. And this is where I have a lot to learn, to be honest. Because abuse to me means hitting and sexual abuse for a long time. And now I'm starting to understand. And not that I'm naive or didn't know what it was, but I'm starting to shift my thinking to see where the verbal abuse or the financial abuse might be happening in your circles. But good men is check one another. You see, my partner's going to check me when I doing things and they think. Let's talk about me and Stacy. If I doing something and it's untoward and thing, my partner's gonna come and say, "Hey, what you doing? The woman? You can't move so. You cannot move so." A partner of mine tell me at time, and I ain't calling no names now, but come home by me and I don't know what was happening with me at the time, or I don't know what was going on and stuff. But he keep calling me on side. He say, "Hey," he say, "You're talking to Stacy real rough, boy." Now, this is a man who I, for a long time, used to find his talk so rough. And I try all how to tell him how he's talk rough and thing. And he come and tell me, and my first feeling was offended. I was like, but what you mean? You know what I mean? But he come and tell me so and make me check myself now and say, but I don't have no ill intention towards Stacey. Or I mean, I don't know what I was going through at the time, or if I honestly didn't even find I was talking to her rough. I went and I asked her about it. I was like, babe, you know, you say I'm talking to her rough and thing. I didn't mean. And she said, no, well, I didn't really notice it like that. Like it was like, it's not like he's talked to me rough all the time. But good men is check one another. But I want to say this. In checking one another, there's two things that's happening. It's go down two roads. You could check your brethren, and your brethren check himself. Because you see, personal responsibility is something I believe in. I cannot force no man to do or not do nothing. I cannot make him stop doing anything. And it's a difficult situation for me to be in. So if I know you as a friend and you hit your woman, I am going to tell you about it. I'm going to check you. I'm going to say, Dread, you need your help. You need this and that. So when you'll ask me about calling police, I honestly don't feel like if I'm your friend and let's say all your fallout and you was abusive to her, I don't feel I would have called the police. But I think I changed my stance on that immediately. Because hear what's happened sometimes. I mean, I've been in my soul. I've been as honest as I could be. Because I've been in these situations before. We as fellas growing up in the area, the notion of calling police on somebody who doing something wrong is something, it's just not done. I grew up in an area, men sell drugs, men do all kind of thing. And I will never, how I go call police on somebody who hustling. So the attitude about calling police is just not in here. But the reason I say I'll change my stance on this is because of those two things that I say will happen. If a man, you tell him, hey, you're talking too rough, boy, what's going on with you? That is not you. What's going on with you? You want me hitting now? You're fighting. You and your woman fighting and thing. I have one man who will check himself and say, boy, Corey, boy, you know what? I had a thing and I had to do better. And I will say, boy, listen, get counseling, talk to the priest, talk to this one, talk to somebody. That happens. I think plenty more often than people realize. That happening all the time. Good men is check one another. But good men, I want us to be honest with yourself too. One of the other road that it could go down is where the fella get aggressive too towards you. Now, what's happened when them things come here fighting you and me? I don't want to get involved in nobody relationship and them kind of thing. But what's happened amongst us as good men, quote unquote? One of the good men fly off the handle and it get physical. We intervene physically if we need to. That is not happening. Among good men, if I with my brethren and he and the woman fighting, I in the middle, he cannot hit her. And she might be able to hit him. And even now, like hearing more stories and learning more about, because I always feel domestic abuse is man to woman. But we're learning more about abuse, whereas women to men, are changing my stance on that too. Nobody can hit nobody. I'm going in between and it's no more hitting. We done. But what good men understand is that we go intervene once and we go intervene twice. But you see, my brethren is not my child. You understand? And that woman is not my child. And if I intervene in and two only making back up and I become an enemy, what is eventually happen is that person who was part of the good men don't be no good man no more. I just gave you all some insight into how men's work in groups. And if I hope that enough fellas listening where you could use Facebook or Instagram to tell me if you agree with what I'm saying or if what I'm saying is making sense. Because eventually that fella don't be part of the crew no more. What we do is when he calls a line, we not available. We care line. We distancing ourselves from that man and that woman. And that is the end of that. But unfortunately, when that happened, he win. Because from everything I learned from Neil, like I messaged Neil when these stories start coming up. And I saying, listen, I learned so much from talking to you. Because I would flippantly and I would just say, well, why a woman? Why don't just leave? But the kind of honeypot style of presenting yourself as the good guy and the most upstanding person, and Neola said it in the episode too. She said it's particularly bad when the person's seen as popular and upstanding in society. So maybe let me start there, right? Maybe let me start with what we see with Majah Hype this weekend. And my experience is this. I enjoy Majah Hype comedy. I enjoy the whole Caribbean skit and all them kind of things. And I get deeper respect for him over this COVID time because of he used to do the little clash things during quarantine, and the man make the quarantine bearable, boy. We used to have a clash a couple of times, sometimes 3 days a week it's a clash, and sometimes it's just music he played, and he make the thing bearable. So when I hear he get a heart attack, I say, boy, that is, them thing is stress, boy. You work to a point now, COVID come, your money ain't making the same way, you're taking on thing, all these things. I mean, all assumptions, of course, but that's what I'm thinking, I'm so sorry to hear it. And then last week, I just happened to turn on live and see him doing some giveaways, and a woman was crying on the live, and he was saying, listen, I'm going to pay your first 2 months rent and your deposit and all that. You know what I mean? And I find it was I was already seeing him as being so helpful to me personally in the quarantine. And then to do something like that, it was touching, but I was like, listen, the Majah Hype helped so much people in this quarantine. Only to see, within no time at all, his wife or ex-wife come up with a story about being abused. And like I purposefully decided to do this episode by myself, right? And I'm going to get help, to do the episode, that is, to get more professionals to talk about these very issues. But the reason I decided to do it myself is because, again, I want to talk to good men. I don't know what to do about the people who would be perpetrators of violence. I need help with that. I need help with people from professionals to tell me what we should do, or what is the help that somebody who is a perpetrator of abuse or abuser, the professionals who are to help me there. But again, good men is who are coming to address. So part of what I seen when that came out, because the first thing that came out was a story from her that she was being hit. It was so vague the way she did the whole thing, that the captions from the news and the blogs and the gossip things and so on Instagram had to say that this is Kirby and this is Majah Hype's wife. I don't think she ever called his name in the whole thing that she did. And it started to become a story now. So immediately, a lot of people jump on and say, well, cancel Majah Hype. No more Majah Hype, unfollow, we stand with Kirby and all that. And I think if you listen to this enough, you know how I feel about cancel culture. But one of the other things that was coming out a lot was how we know it's true. Why we jumping on Majah Hype? We don't know if she lying. Women is abused, men too. All those things were coming out. And I find myself struggling with that. It was a struggle for me. And the struggle for me was, again, talking to good men. Because I am grateful for, I don't know what carried me down this journey where I was already talking about this a lot. I'm grateful to people like Neola Zamo, who shed some light on me, or shed some light for me as to what these situations really look like. Some of the light coming from the inside of the situation, which, number one, I would not know, and number two, I had to check myself now to see if I'm not carrying a lot of these toxic behaviors and abusive behaviors myself, and I calling myself a good man. And one of the things that stood out to me with what Neola said is, I said something about whether the story is true, whether it's accusations. We were talking about some, I don't know if you're talking about a hypothetical situation between a man and a woman, like the thing about calling police. And whatever I said, Neola asked me, well, Corey, what is the harm in believing her if she makes an accusation? What's the harm in giving her the benefit of the doubt? And this is the conversation I was trying to have uselessly in most occasions with good men. Because the notion that she could be making up this story is true. The notion that she could be the abusive one and trying to get ahead of the curve and make him look bad and end his career because she's malicious and wicked is true. Right? The notion that there are three sides to a story, it's have his side, her side, and the truth is true. And we should wait to get all the information we could get before we come to judgment. All that is true. But that question that Neola asked me pierced me because of the end result of a lot of cases of domestic violence. So I can't argue. I might argue this 2 weeks ago, to be honest, about the difference between abuse of men or abuse of women by men or men by women. I might argue 2 weeks ago. I can't argue it again because I'm starting to see clearer through people who have already agreed to come on the platform and do the podcast. I'm starting to see clearer how men are abused. So it's something that I will not treat in a flippant way going forward anymore. But having said that, the outcome of situations of domestic violence between men and women, way more often than not, could lead to, there's a higher probability that the woman could end up dead than the man ending up dead. So when I say, or what I heard Neola say, and I'll give Neola, I don't want to talk on her behalf at all. I will give her every opportunity to clarify because her clarification helps me see myself so differently and my behavior so differently. But what I was hearing her saying is, if you believe her and she was lying, what are the consequences of that? What are you risking? And the reality is nothing. Because number one, and again, I'm not in the whole cancel culture thing. I don't believe in it. I don't. It doesn't matter to me what the circumstances are. To be honest, I do feel as if I follow you and your value is different to mine for whatever reason, or you do things that I don't like, everybody free to unfollow the person and all those things. But I also believe that no matter how bad you do or what wickedness you do, people and things, you could get help and you could recover from. It's hard for me to just accept this notion of that this person wicked and evil and all them kind of things. People could get help and people could turn their lives around. I want to use Wayne Chance as an example of this and the work he did with prisoners and the fact that he was a prisoner himself and turned himself clean around. I want to use Gart Sinclair. Listen to Gart Sinclair talk about his abuse of drugs and cocaine. Listen to Errol Fabian talk about cocaine and so on and how what it caused them to become. Look at who they are today. So don't ask me to join that line where a man must be banished or a woman must be banished because they do wrong things. I can't join that. So when I say or what I hear Neola say or my interpretation is, what harm is there in believing the woman? I'm not saying believe the woman to cast Majah Hype to hell. I'm saying believe the woman to help her immediately. If somebody cry out that they're being abused, not somebody, let me say somebody, male or female. If somebody cry out that they're being abused, give them the benefit of the doubt and give them any kind of help that they could get in the moment. You know what happened to me at time? I sit down in Gulf City, boy. If people know South in Gulf City by Ruby Tuesdays. And we were living, me and Stacy living 2-3 blocks from Gulf City. And I do a call in order and I was waiting for the food in Ruby Tuesdays. And I must dress all how. So I didn't want to sit down in the restaurant waiting area. So I sit down just outside the restaurant at a little bench right there. On the mall side, on the inside. And a woman walked through the door. I'm not paying attention to nobody, but she walked through the door and come and sit down so close to me and lean up on me. But I said, but I was so confused. And she said, oh gosh, stay with me now. A man following me. This must be 7, 8 o'clock the night, in Gulf City. Up to today, I never see the man. I don't know what the person looked like or anything. I'm not sure what was going on. I was so confused. But I kind of hold on and I said, no, stay, you're good, don't worry. You stay with me. And I collect my food and we went out and we get out of our car and everything was good. I don't know. She didn't say, she could have hardly say much. She just said, stay with me. Like, and if I remember right, she said, stay with me. He followed me. And that is what I get from what Neola was saying when she say, what is the harm in believing the person? Because sometimes when you put it on social media and Instagram and them things get in between, it could get impersonal and everybody could get to start to pontificate and judgment. But good men, what would you have done if that woman came to you and sit down by you and say, help me, he following me? I know what you would do, good man. You would do the same thing I do. You would not ask her nothing about what she do or what she doing, or you would not ask her nothing about if she making up this story or if she sent nudes or what she was wearing. Good man, you would have stayed there. You would have just helped her. In other words, you would have give her the benefit of the doubt. You was not going to come and say, well, let's hear his side of the story and let's hear what he have to say and let's see it have a third side to the truth. You was not going to do that, good man. So I'm saying we had to do better. We as men had to do better. I don't know what women doing about this, you know. I don't know. I could only talk for us. We had to change the way we approaching this thing. As I say, men are abused, women is lying, woman, relationship, this goes so on, people has had problems and all those things. But had I not, if I tell that woman, listen, miss, I not getting in between all your thing, you know. I don't know what you do the man. I don't know if you was horning the man, make him to follow you. I don't know if you thief the man money. And that woman end up dead. How you feel, boy? If that same woman end up in the papers the next day, how you will feel? So social media have a way, it give you enough distance to be able to pontificate because it's not real. You're not seeing it. And then I keep following this story because I have, I really just learning this. I learning this. So when I see situations like those, I going back to what I hear Micah talk about, and I going back to what I hear Neola talk about. And I starting to understand feedback I get from episodes from people like Sharon Francis, who helped me talk, who open up a whole world for me in this place. And all I am saying is, in that moment, when she make that cry out for help, let us by default start to help. By default, let us start to help. If we're wrong and she was making up this story and all them things, I big enough to say, good man. I said, my boy, sorry boy, I didn't know, but the way Trinidad going now, I just wanted to protect the woman, boy. Because if she complaining about something, it's better try and protect her and be wrong about that than I leave it alone and she was telling the truth. We had to change that approach. That approach not helping us. How much of these headlines you gonna read, boy? How long we would just say, I not abusive, so that is good enough. While people, so I did find it strange that he wasn't really responding with Majah Hype. And there was some Instagram stories with some Bible verses and those types of things. And it was a little bit odd because I'm trying to picture myself, good man. If I am getting wild accused, if somebody come now and say I abusing them and I beating them and I wonder how I would react as a quote unquote good man. And I can't judge anybody by my standards, but I keep looking at his Instagram trying to see when he will say something. Because I just kept feeling like I would have said something real fast. You know what, too? I remember a situation one time when I was working TSTT. And a friend of mine, so she I consider her a friend, my real work friend. She was the first person who ever trained me in TSTT. A lady by the name of Vanessa Jaikaran, my partner. And we went to a fete with some friends, right? And we had nothing, we just fetting on thing, you know what I mean? We went a little fete and I don't know what happened in the fete. But when the Monday, I thought we had a real good time, but then Monday morning come and she was moving her left. But she's not the type of person, she don't really mince words now. She's telling exactly what her mind and she's as direct as it gets. And blunt. So eventually I said, Vanessa, how you moving? So what's going on? And she tell me, she say, well, my friend and her friend, she have a friend, is a friend, huh? She say, she saw me bad talking her. Like I was talking to her partner of mine and talking, like bad talking her then. And she said, when she realized, when I realized the friend was watching, I kind of laugh it off and try to change the topic. And I saying, Vanessa, I would never say nothing bad about you. I don't bad talk people. I try my best to say good things about people or don't say nothing. So I now search in my brain trying to figure out, well, why could I say bad about Vanessa? And something happened later in the day that stood out to me in my life, and I try to live so. Because she went until this Vanessa now, because I tell you, Vanessa Frank, Vanessa is not a beat rock the bush person. And something she was saying to another co-worker, and she said, yes, Corey was ill-speaking me in the fete. And the person said, Corey was bad talking to you, Vanessa? Nah. Corey, I feel Corey would do that, man. Talk to him and see. It had to be a misunderstanding. And that kind of stood out to me. Another thing stand out to me too, I remember a time right in that same Park Street in TSTT. I see a fella, a contractor. The man said, he quarreling, boy. He say, boy, these people is the worst, but he calling names of all the people who working in mobile. This one, this thing, and this manager, you know what he doing, and this one setting up thing, and he only studying to thief money from the company, and he bad talking everybody. But my father working in the department, so I'm waiting to hear daddy name calling. So when I find him calling daddy name at all, I say, boys, all that racket running in the department. Yeah, them fellas and them. I said, so what can Kirby, boy? He say, nah, he cool. I thought I catch man in the wrong standard, but it ain't work. What's all that had to do with anything? I keep looking at Majah Hype, not saying anything. And I'm trying to see where, like, his friends would come in his defense. Because good men, women, I saying again, women who posting on social media that quote unquote good men know who is the one in the crew, you're absolutely right. And if the one in the crew who I know ain't doing that under no circumstances, and he's not that guy and never that guy, and this kind of thing come out about him, I willing to stand up and say, well, he's not that type of fella, I don't know if something went wrong or he flapped the handle. I don't know if they get away. I don't know what happened. But he's not that type of person and they don't have that kind of relationship. I'm in shock. But I didn't see much of that. I didn't see much people. I didn't see the Steely Bashments and the Noah Powers and the Tony Matarons. I didn't see anything from any of them. And I'm not leveling any accusation. I'm just telling you as good men. If I see my partner going through something like that girl that said it, nah, not Corey, or like that fellow who say, nah, Ken, he cool, I would have probably say something. So I didn't say nothing. I say, well, I'm going to wait to hear was the end result. And then I saw that he went by in wedding mode too, so I had no time to look at all this, but I make a space when I'm good enough and I could look at the whole thing and I watch his live. And well, before that, there was a sex tape that came out, and then she had to make a next live, and that addressed. Now she called it Majah Hype, and she said what it was and all those types of things, and she making real accusations and allegations of him. Then he come back on the live now to say she trying to destroy his career, and he making accusations of her and putting things out there. He said he didn't leak the sex tape, but he did show a lot of the pictures that she had of men on her phone and all them types of things. And I mean, she had a lot of assortment. It was a lot. But all in all, right? I think the only conclusion I could come to is that both of them need real help. That relationship was real toxic. And I hope they could both get the help that they need overall. And I hope both of them come out better off in the end. If people want to jump on a train to say cancel Majah Hype and he must never do this, that, or the third, or he must never make money, or don't make a next joke for the rest of his life, that's your call. If people want to come out and say, well, that woman lie, and you could see she lying, and look how she had the man, and well, that's your call too. I just appealing to good men to say that your initial response, and I learning as I go along. So not just to women, to anybody who's saying they're being abused. Maybe we could just adjust our thinking to immediately offer assistance to that person. Just in case. It could be a little falling out thing happen, somebody fly off the handle and everybody settle back down and it's a one and done situation. But it could also be a headline. So I just saying as good men, let we forget in the moment when somebody tell you they're being abused, right? Forget how much pictures who had in their phone and who had how much of this and who was wearing that. I just asking if we could collectively forget that for a second and just offer a little assistance to the person and be prepared to be wrong, because there's no skin off our back. We're not in no abusive relationship. We're comfortable in our homes. But I feel we need to get a little more uncomfortable. We need to get uncomfortable to the point where these headlines start disappearing. We had to get these headlines to go. We can't live like this. So, I mean, I know that the story and so on with Majah Hype was not local, but it's so indicative of what happens locally here and what people dealing with all the time. And you know, that's one of the reasons why I keep in domestic violence at the forefront of what I discuss, because we will be back here again. We will be back here again. The Guardian says 47 times we was here for the year. 47. And boy, I remember when we were starting to hit 47 COVID deaths, how people was feeling in this country when we was approaching 50 COVID deaths. Everybody was worried and said, you know, the thing escalating, the thing spiking again. You had to wear a mask. We had 47. December still had 2-3 weeks to go again. So I just like asking again, good men. All the other things could be true. Because look, I mean, they have next side to the story, they have third side to the story. But if you could figure out a way where you could help and extend a hand and say things. And you know, the thing that's funny about that whole thing, or so awkward to have the conversation with good men, is that in that same conversation, one of the things that people pontificating about is that when you are in a domestic violence situation, you should leave the home. We need to educate women on how to leave situation. And I'm thinking, but when the person cry out to leave, if you're so passionate that the person should get out, when they cry out to get out, why do I extend a hand one time, immediately? What more evidence you need again? You saying the person should leave immediately. Stretch out a hand and help the person to leave one time. And if you stretch out a hand and you help them to leave, we could work out the details after. If she was lying and she was making, that's on her. Or he was lying and he was making up, that's on him. That's not on you. I feel I do my part. If you come by me and you say he following me, I say don't worry yourself. You see in that moment in Gulf City there, nothing. If something had to happen to that woman, it was happening to me. And I keep saying that now, but this I tell people all the time that would be my downfall in life, and that would be the enemy. Because I can't stand by and see them things. And if I can't stand by and see it in real life, I want to adopt the same attitude on social media. So, to Trinidad news. Ashanti Riley. Boy, I don't like to talk about these things in a way. These things will be real hard for me to digest or to talk about, honestly. But we had to talk about it. Young teenager, what does little girl do, boy? You take a taxi. This is where we come to. This is Trinidad. This is what you do. You take a taxi in this country, they find you in a shallow grave in Lacano. For being a little girl. For going about your day as normal. This is the society we live in. It's life as usual. We just go to work and we stop and get Starbucks and we come home and we think and we eat nice dinner, we sleep in your warm bed and we move on. And 2 weeks from now, we can't remember, they hear the name Ashanti Riley. You say, I know that name sounding familiar. And that family left with a void. That's, can't imagine it. Reading the stories, watching the things to see like what her mother's saying and how that woman feeling and boy, listen. This I mean, there's not too much I could say about that story, because that story is what it is. But you know what? That story is who we are as a society. That story with Ashanti Riley is reflective of Trinidad and Tobago as a society. That is just who we are. So I always talk about this, and I talking about these things because of how they affect me and cause me to see. Because when I talk to some of these counselors I'm talking to now, and starting to understand more about domestic violence being financial, emotional, physical, sexual, verbal, I had to watch how I talking to Stacey and Zachary. As a good man, I like to make bad joke, but I had to check myself. I can't perpetuate this, boy. I can't let me make these small changes in my own life. That is what I could control. But we can't afford to continue. Boy. Think of it this way, right? If you want some context to this thing. If we are 47 now, that's 4 every month. That's 4 every month. On average, it have about 4 weeks in a month. If you want to say 52 weeks in a year, we just short of a woman dying in thing according to The Guardian every single week. But we forget the names and then we go back to normal and then we act real shocked when this thing happen. We can't continue to be shocked. It is who we are. It's cultural. It's a part of us. It's just like chutney and limbo and steel pan and calypso and carnival and Christmas, and it is a part of us. It's a part of who we are culturally. It's a part of the fabric of the society. And until we learn to look in the mirror and admit that to ourselves, good men, we have a problem. It is a part of who we are. You get me? Remember my next story, and I'm no hero, I'm no hero. But carnival time, I be properly powder. When I in town, I powder, drunk. I good enough to go, man. I could walk down the road. But I remember one time, if people know Muckarappa Road on a carnival Tuesday evening, as busy and vibesy as Muckarappa Road is be, it's be real dead when nightfall carnival Tuesday. And I walking down the road in my drunken stupor, trying to reach home. But good. I mean, all right. But I try my best to be as alert as I could be because I know, I mean, as a man, you're walking drunk by yourself. It's our predators. People looking for our opportunity. And I see a girl in her costume on the phone saying, I don't know where I am. I'm not sure where this place is. What street? And boy, listen, I feel I get sober immediately. No, I say, miss, where you looking for? She say, her father coming to pick her up, but she don't know the street names. I say, girl, here, come with me, come. We wasn't too far from by my mother's house, and I walk up the road with her. And by the time I stand up, I'm drunk, I'm talking hard. Stacy and mommy and everybody come outside and thing, and we start. I tell her, nah, she didn't know where she was going and thing, and I tell her, nah, you know what I mean? I said, don't be saying in dark streets something you don't know where it is. You know what I mean? Don't do that. And I stayed there with her and her father came, and that man was so grateful because I can't imagine what he was feeling like trying to find his daughter and she in this lonely boy. Listen. And what I want to say is that for the 47 people that would have lost their lives to situations like those over the last year, that is the culmination of something that happened every day in this society. And I see it, and I see it in myself. Every time I read one of those posts that women do, and I'm so grateful that women, I mean, and they're more than doing their part. They're more than doing their part. They're overdoing to try to help themselves and protect themselves and help us to see things differently. They're overdoing it. And I appreciate that because when I saw Cassia post this week again, I can't remember if she's the first person I saw posted, but this is the second time I see it posted. Well, a simple thing that says, if there were no more men in Trinidad, what would you do? You know what Neola had said to that? She said, I'll go in the grocery in my yoga pants. About half the women say go in the beach in the night. A woman say, walk her dog in peace. The next woman say, I was sitting in a taxi without my finger on the speed dial button. So how we as good men could continue to live as normal if the women in the country under siege? These people are afraid. They're frightened. They can't take the harassment. They're uncomfortable. So good men, what we gonna do? What we gonna do? Leave? We will just sit down here and leave them to be at the mercy of PH drivers who come in our community and preying on people? What we gonna do, good men? We's good men. We's good men. We learning. We trying to understand. We debating. We pontificating. We trying to figure out, okay, women should get herself out. Men should, how do I asking myself all the time, what I had to tell Zachary? I on YouTube trying to figure out how you tell an 8-year-old how to be or how to behave when it comes to other people. To not be abusive in your relationships, whether it be friendships or relationships. What to tell him? Because that PH driver was 8 years old. That PH driver was 8 years old. And he had ambitions and he had dreams, and his mother wanted him see him to become something, and he would be smart, and they laugh, and he dance, and he take cake, he do everything an 8-year-old do. So I don't know where we're going wrong. I don't know what to tell Zachary. What to tell him? We had to figure out how to do. We can't continue to live in a society like if everything just smooth. Boy, listen, I gonna make a post and say, men, what would you do if there were no woman for 24 hours or for 6 months? You will see the responses to that post. It will have no fear. It will have there will be nothing untoward about it. So we gonna lime all time. We go watch football, lime whoever. We partners. There will be nothing. Nothing compared to that. To go in the beach in the night. Because I mean, think about it. You're so frightened to go in the beach in the night because you know some predator lurking. And I mean, I understand it's not a good man lurking. But what we gonna do? We gonna just stay here? We just gonna let it happen? I saw at the same time, almost like clockwork, a man I think they say it was Arima, trying to get his daughter into a taxi. I don't know if the people who talking around the area saying that he kicked the girl in her head or her belly or something like that, boy. And you know the normal thing, a crowd gather around, and at first I couldn't really tell if police was on the scene or what exactly was happening. And he is he's adamant that this is my daughter. And he telling the girl, come on. I don't know if it was the lash that she get out of delirious or they saying she might have been drinking. One out of the two, whatever it was, she was delirious. She was not fully conscious. And he's telling the girl, come on, come in the car now. That is my daughter. You can't tell me how to. And again, I thinking, boy, I can't be on these scenes. I can't be present when those kind of things happen. It's a problem for me. So eventually he get the woman in the car. And I think they say he was questioned by the police and released. And I hear people on the scene saying, but how you let him go with the girl? And the police saying, boy, listen, if the man says his daughter, what we could do? I mean, I'm thinking like charge him for assault. I don't know. I'm not sure. And I don't want to blame the police necessarily because I don't know what the whole story is. But again, it kind of shows you getting a little glimpse into who we are as a society. And you see, that's something that it's kind of sometimes like very much the way we see raising children. Raising children to us as a society mean beat them into being disciplined. Or humiliate them into being disciplined. And when you grow up good or you're okay, there's a tendency to say, licks make me good. Look how much licks I get and I was all right. And I always used to think to that question, but you can imagine how amazing you would have been if you didn't get licks. You can imagine how amazing you would have been. If you went through that and you could, imagine how amazing a person you would have been if people had used other disciplinary methods. But that's what we as a society, we tend to say, licks is a thing. Licks is a, you had to straighten these children out. Make sure that so I think we have the right intention because we don't want our children, I want my son to grow up to be a good man. But maybe we need help as fathers, as mothers in how we approach discipline. And YouTube and things plenty help too, but they have plenty counselors, plenty therapists out there. You're having trouble with the children and things. It's hard. Sometimes these children frustrate you. Exactly, the man is getting me frustrated. I just had to stop for a little while. It's so hard, boy. And sometimes you just be telling yourself, boy, listen, if I had tell my mother and then my head's spinning, you just say anything you feel to say no. At time I was telling them over this weekend, I correcting Zachary about something. I vex her. Something he do, boy. And I tell him, I say, Zachary, what is so and so? What? Zachary said, but you asked me that already. And I answer it already. Boy, here now, I blow my head gasket blow. I couldn't believe he. But the boy just basically saying, yeah, they had asked me that before. And I answered. I think he genuinely, he wasn't trying to be rude or disrespectful. He's like, No, you asked me that before, and I tell you I didn't know. You know what I mean? And I had to constantly, it's a battle to control myself. But I feel like it's better I fight the battle and control myself than I lose it. It's easier for me as an adult to control myself than it is for him. I mean, he's 80, trying to figure things out. And I want him to be curious. I want him to be. I teach in classes in entrepreneurship. I tell people all the time, you have to take chances, make mistakes, learn from your mistakes. You can't, so why wouldn't I encourage him to do the same thing? To take chances, learn from them, be honest about what you're doing. I will always be here to help you regardless of what happened and things. But when you see a man and a daughter, I mean, it's a commendable thing. A man have a relationship with his daughter, taking his daughter out and all that. And I keep wondering in that story too, like how they know it was his daughter for sure. But it's a commendable thing. You want to see more of that. But how it turning into public physical abuse and kicking, and you justifying that to say, that is how you raise your daughter. Don't get in between you and your daughter. And I'm not sure what's the police situation with that. I would have think that he can't leave with that girl. And if he get charged for something and releases, is another story. But again, the violence that we... Okay, so let me ask this, right? I'll put this out there. When she as a little girl, no, get to be an adult and go into relationships, what is her expectation of how a man should treat her? Or what could her attitude towards men be? Is it possible that she could seek out abusive relationships for her own validation and on her own? That's what she feels best? Is it possible that she could become an abusive partner and inflict the pain on other men that she really wanted to inflict on her father because she can't do back her father nothing? She would do men thing. So I don't see the issue as different from the Majah Hype thing and all them things. It's like we laud and praise violence in the household as part of the way we discipline and raise children, and then we bawl out in agony when later on in life somebody see that is how you discipline your wife or that is how you discipline your husband. I don't know. It's not serving us. Good men. It's not serving us. The way we running our households and raising our children collectively, it's not serving us. It creating 47 bodies in a year. 47 women in a year due to situations like these. By the time I look again, is a man getting grappling down the side of a mountain to find a woman body down in the water in Toko. And an article was written. I mean, we know what happened in the newspaper and all that. And there's a few things I saw that was so tricky. And again, it's just me learning it. But I always feel when I learn something, I want to implement it as fast as possible if it's helpful for me. But beyond the newspaper making some seemingly mistakes or maybe coming to too quick a conclusion on what happened, because I think it was, I when I read the article the first time, it seemed as though they were saying it looked like it's the husband. You know what I mean? When it don't seem to be that anymore as the investigation go along, and they say they had a close male relative in custody. Well, the husband and the brother watching one another to see, well, who them don't know, because two of them reading the article from home. So that aside, there was an article, and again going back to where having that conversation with Neola, where she's saying basically, it's like we need to reframe the way we look at these things. How come the headline is, the headline? You find that when they write a headline about this thing, they say a woman raped and so on, so on, so on. So I can't remember. That was probably in the Ashanti Riley case. They say a woman raped and found it. And it's like, why you didn't say like a man? Why you don't write it in the context of who do the thing, not the person who it happened to? But those things aside, that thing in Toko was as gruesome as it gets. I don't know what's the story. It don't seem to have an end to that story or the bottom of the story yet. It's not clear where it's headed. So I don't want to say too much about that from that standpoint because we don't know. The police was saying it's hard to figure out if it's foul play because the battering on the body could be associated with the waves and the rocks and those types of things. So it's hard to say exactly what happened in situations like those. But I mean, all in all, it's just a rough week in the news. And the thing about it is, it affects his psyche. It affects the psyche of the nation, I believe, because like I was just listening to a program with Dion Green and Pastor Teresa Alves, and they were talking about it. And I mean, I'm listening to him talk. It's on 99.5, and they spoke. Some guys called in and spoke about their own stories with seeking help and so on. One guy called in and said, "Listen, he used to abuse alcohol and marijuana and abuse women, and he seek help and he seek counseling. And I know how hard it is to go out there and try to get counseling. I find it's hard to go and talk to a counselor. As a man, it's so hard to go and tell somebody your problems. You kind of want to come across low-key like you don't have no problems." But all of us have issues, man. All of us have issues. And it's like, when we're going to start to seek the help that we need and try to better ourselves, try to make this place a nice little place to live where everybody could be cool. People should not worry about these things. You taking a taxi from Sunshine Avenue and so on, and this is the kind of problems. Why? How we end up here? Why we ended up here as a society over and over and over again? It's so many people. So good men. The moral of the story for me, and this is why I'm doing myself, and I'm putting it out there for us to continue to do it. We had to not just intervene or talk to people in the way that we do. Sometimes you have to get intervention for people. So that's why I changed my stance on taking a hard line on whether it is calling the police or social services. We can't wait till something big happens. Now, if you want to look at it this way, when you call the police or whatever you do to get intervention in that situation, forget the woman, is your partner you're saving. But think of it like that, you're saving your partner, because my attitude was that I can't let my partner get locked up. I'm supposed to protect my partner, but maybe your partner needs to get locked up. And that might be protecting him more than keeping him on the streets. And again, we have 100 sides to every story. But if somebody come and tell you they're being abused, you be prepared to look stupid now. Like we as good men, I prepared to look stupid and look like a fool when I was wrong on the issue. And then I prepared for everybody on social media to say, you see, you're running behind the woman and the woman said this and you believe the woman and nothing wasn't happening. She was lying. I prepared to be a fool. Let me be a fool. Let me be a clown who chose the wrong road, and let me apologize and say, good, I couldn't believe it's that boy. Wow, she catch me. I'm good with that. I'm comfortable. Because at least if that happened, all that we lost is my little humiliation and my little false pride and my little ego. That's the only thing that get bruised. But it ain't gonna hurt the national psyche and feel the pain now we're feeling as a people right now. We have to keep working till we get to the point where women comfortable to go in the beach in the night or in the grocery in yoga pants or walk the road without somebody following them. Why we can't get comfortable enough to get to that point as a society and live good and enjoy life and all that? So it's really a call to the good men. And as I said, I'm going to continue to get help to come and talk about it. So I deliberately not saying my thoughts or what I feel about any particular situation, largely because, again, the cancel thing is not, I don't think is it, but maybe somebody, maybe a professional will tell me different where that's concerned. But I leave it on a note where I'm asking for us good men. when you see yourself going down that road or you're seeing yourself borderline, just check yourself. Check your own toxic behaviors. Check the way you're raising your children, what you're telling them, how you're disciplining them. Because if we don't do that, this story will never stop. This will always be a story. And unfortunately, in this country, we tend to find that the stories happen a big way. And then after about a week, all of us go on about our lives and we forget the names. We forget the families who had to live with this for the rest of their life. Somebody just went in the shop and then never come back. We just forget. We forget all about them. Out of the 47 names, we might remember about 6. So the Guardian do us a little favor by giving us the names. Joanne Hood, Rihanna Jordan, Trisha Ramsaran, Elena Dial, Anaya McLeod, Ornella Graves, Vera Golaby, Shoma Francis, Sherrianne Huggins, Joanne Diaz Sanchez, Reshma Kanchan, Tenille Cupid, Johandri Espinoza, Krystal Primus-Espinoza, Toya Roberto Codayo, Stephanie Khan, Roshni Sandy, Roberto Codayo, Giselle Phillip, as some of the names that they had here as the people who would have gone through this before. 45 women and 2 girls. Murder count overall at 362, females representing 13% of those homicides today. Something that we had to do better as a society. So as I say, we're going to get the professionals to come and talk about it, because it's hard for me to come to too much of judgment on any of these issues, because I don't know, I don't have all the facts. All I could talk about is how it make me feel, and it really forcing me to check my own behaviors, number one. I had to find a way for women to be more comfortable around me, boy. I had to work on that. I'm not doing a good job. I'm not doing a good job based on what I see and people saying. If these are the problems we having, good men, we making women uncomfortable. You see how we could make it real inviting and great for them. Let them have a good experience. Forget who lying and who this and who that and who wearing what and who went with how much man. Let me just talk about ourselves and what we could do. We could make the place a little more comfortable for women. And we could continue the conversation by getting some professionals to talk to us about our own behaviors and when we should try and seek help. And yes, I agree, women should find ways to go and we should educate our daughters. But let me just work on myself now, for now. Let's just work on ourselves. While we educate our daughters and we work on that, let's also work on ourselves. Let's work on what we're telling them, how we're raising them, what we're telling our wives, how we treating women. We had to work on it. I putting myself out there. I am not doing a good job. I'm not doing a good job at it. But let me strive to do better. So let me make this a challenge, you know. Let me make it the good men challenge. Let me check ourselves and check one another and let me eliminate these headlines. Let me eliminate this fear and this man or woman missing and children. But nah, man, this can't be just too heavy. It's too heavy. So I'll leave you all there. Next time you hear from me, we'll be talking to some people who could bring some professional opinions to these topics. Enjoy all week.